I'm a shy guy, so I was a little hesitant when I asked if she needed a ride to her car. It was a dark, large parking lot, so even if it was interested in her, I felt obligated to make sure she was safe. She actually said no because she wasn't that far away. So I followed up to see if it was okay for me to at least walk her to her car. She said yes, and we arrived at her car and asked for her number. Smiled and said, "Yeah, I got the hint right away. It's cool, thanks for hanging out, have a great night," and turned to leave. After a few steps, I hear her open her door, but she says, "Wait a minute." I stop, turn and joke, "Nope, too late," and she laughs. We dated for 6 months, and at some point during that time, she told me how cool it was to be rejected, which made her like me without feeling sorry for me. Story 2. Hobbs. Story 2. Hobbs and I waited for a few weeks to enter our romantic relationship, and he said, "Come over, sleep with me, but no funny business. I just want to sleep with you." Before we became intimate, we simply shared a bed, and I knew he was a keeper because even though I felt the boners while I slept, he would covertly tuck them into his waistband and resume cuddling me. I have a lot of respect for him. And if he tries to find out more about me, Story 3. Story 4 is quite uncommon. It has nothing to do with and respects my choices of hobbies and interests. Perhaps if I had first met you when we were still teenagers, we would have Story 5. Usually, this is when you're already dating someone, but you're not in the mood. Take note of their reaction and their mood for the next 10 to 15 minutes. 2 of my ex-boyfriends would get irritated or would sulk and keep trying to find a way to convince you that they weren't good guys. I was so inebriated at a party that my friend abandoned me. He took me to his house, brought me glasses of water and snacks, and didn't even make a move all night long, even when I slept in his bed in my underwear. Story 6. When he takes the time to. I wish the human mating ritual was as simple as Story 8. You can never know. I'm not a girl, but my significant other claims that you could tell with me because I was the same around her as I was with my friends and her friends. I was respectful of her family, and I had a good career. I mean, those guys who just want to hang out and bang don't care about your backstory or your real life. For example, in Story 7, they build a nest out of grass and decorate it with blue plastic eggshells, stones, or whatever gaudy thing they can find. Story 9. I remember the first time I kissed my now husband, who was obviously very interested in a relationship with me for months before they asked him what he liked about me. He gave me the most thoughtful, detailed answer, with real examples of times I did something that he found sweet or beautiful. I couldn't help but kiss him after that, and he's still the best person I know. Even then, there was skepticism at first, but we just had one day, and it was a good day. If he recalls minor information about you, such as the name of your dog or the occupation of your sister, he truly listens when you speak. If he recalls your response when he asked how you were doing, if he follows up with, "Oh, how did the insert thing you did here go?" If he tries to talk to you rather than just pestering you to hang out with him, if he doesn't constantly try to turn conversations into flirting or comments, and if he's okay with you not being able to hang out if things come up. Those are some of the things I look for, but I have been duped before, so trust your gut. It is unrealistic to expect a guy to remember every detail about you, but if he does remember something minor, it shows that he was paying attention. Other ways a guy can demonstrate this include asking more detailed questions and remembering general information about your life. If a guy makes an effort to get to know you, he is sincere. Story 11. When he does nice things. Story 11. When a guy does helpful things, he doesn't make a big deal out of it because he is being a decent person and not seeking financial gain. For example, if someone gives you a ride home and never mentions it again except to accept or decline a quote. Nice guys will give you a lift home and then refuse to let you get out of the car after saying, "Wow, That was a really nice thing I did for you. What are you going to do for me? Story 12. The night. Story 12. The night I knew I would marry my husband was before we even started dating, and I knew he had been interested for a few months, but I wasn't available, and he respected that. He never pushed the boundaries, and one night I was working a late shift and prepared to leave at around 10 p.m. I had been dropped off earlier in the afternoon because my idiot had forgotten to fill up my car with gas, so it was sitting on the side of the road. I knew my co-worker, now husband, lived in a town between where we worked and where I lived, so I called my ride several times, got no response, called my roommate, got no response, texted my friend who lived in the same town, and after 30 minutes got no response. I decided to call a guy I hardly knew outside of work and hoped he was as kind as he seemed to be, and 15 minutes later he was picking me up. Of course, I was embarrassed and furious that no one had returned my calls or texts. I drove to the closest 24-hour store, bought a gas jug, went in to pay for the gas, and came out with a cup of coffee as well. It was getting cold outside, so he drove me back to my car, got me squared away, and followed me back to the same gas station so I could fill up in case something went wrong. I told him this several times during the night, and he kept saying, "You've had a long day. Let me help." We arrived at the gas station, Story 12, Let Me Help station, and he filled up my tank and returned with a pack of the brand of cigarettes I smoked at the time. Our bond was built on smoking, which we no longer do. "You keep him. You know I don't smoke this brand, and you give them to me." As we're standing there smoking and the night is coming to an end, I just start crying and tell him I'm glad you exist. We've been saying that to this day, and he hasn't mentioned it except years later, when he told me how angry he was that no one had ever come to get me, had admitted that no one had ever told him that they were happy he existed, and that he was happy he hadn't chosen to drink that night like he usually would have. I hope you two are still pleased together, guys. In order to receive updates for upcoming uploads, please click the subscribe button and enable the notification bell for our stories. Now, let's return to Story 13. Op just got in my trousers. He's very cunning and has an excellent game. Story 14. Story 15. Op. Story 15. I knew my spouse was a keeper. He had been my friend initially, but we lost contact because he had a weird incident. He was amazing at non-leaf affectionate touch, and I really value it. He was the first to give me forehead kisses, side hugs, hand-holding, and no reciprocal affection. He told me that I needed to be single before I made another commitment because he deserved to have all of me and be more than a rebound. We talked every day, and he told me he didn't have to wait, but he insisted that when we first saw each other, he was an OTR truck driver and he clicked that we were meant to be. He switched to a regional driver and I returned to college. Now we're building our lives together after 7 years. His girlfriend was officially his ex-girlfriend when we reconnected, but I had an emotional fiancé. Story 16. Operation Story 16. As guys are nice to you, nice guys are also nice to people who don't want anything from you. I also think that nice guys should have told me that you're a nice guy because you don't realize that being nice is the bare minimum and that you need to bring something else to the table. It would be dishonest of me to say that there wasn't some appeal in aesthetics, but don't claim nice like that's an accomplishment you're supposed to be nice about. It's a sign that you don't understand that, and it's a pretty good indication that Story 17 is not real. If these jerks can get dates, then I could get a date and be amazing at it. The guy without a job got a date, claimed he forgot his wallet so you paid for it, and even convinced her to give him a ride home. I think that for some of these guys, it's a matter of how they see themselves versus the stories they hear. It's easy to find horror story after horror story of first dates with men, and it's easy to find women complaining about the exes. It can make the bar appear artificially low. I'm a model boyfriend, and a woman would love to date me if I could date that for so long. Then if they go on a date, they show basic human decency and expect to be praised for it, completely unaware that they've been comparing themselves to literally the worst. I think it has to do with that phenomenon, where people think something is more common the more they hear about it. No one posts and asks Reddit, or if they do, they don't make it to the top asking about May dates, for example. When I first tried Tinder, I put a lot of effort into it and avoided all the things I've heard women say that it's like in Tinder profiles. I tried to follow the best tips and got almost no matches and no replies. I was unintentionally comparing myself to the profiles that women actively dislike, and being better than disliked is not really enough reason for a woman to swipe for a man. I don't know if there are many guys who fall into this category, but it certainly seems plausible. Story 18. Respect your boundaries. It wasn't until my current boyfriend made me realize that my feelings of being weirded out by all the guys before him were justified. They always pushed when I expressed hesitation or discomfort. I told my boyfriend it wasn't ready, and he didn't make a move again for another 2 years. It seems pretty realistic for other guys to follow similar logic and view themselves as more desirable than they actually are. This is going to hit someone in the face so hard and sad. It took me several months to get ready and start it myself. You don't need to have it. Story 19. One day I was really sick, and my current boyfriend was helping me out, so I told him that I felt really bad, but I just didn't think I could have that night. It looked me in the eye and said I don't need to have it for the night. I used to think that I was kind of obligated to have sex with my boyfriends when they wanted it, because that's what you did in order to be a good girlfriend. A few of my ex-boyfriends expected me to have just complied, even if I wasn't feeling well or was exhausted or anything. Story 20 taught me what a wonderful man is, and I learned to love you. Story 20. You're in a relationship. It's usually easiest to tell if someone is in a relationship by the way they treat you differently. But if you have the option, it's a shortcut. It's always a bummer when you're enjoying yourself with a group of people and a guy you are platonically hitting it off with finds out you're in a relationship and starts ignoring you right away. It doesn't happen very often, but it always makes me sad. I'm not a smoke show or anything. It's like, oh, I guess I'm just not as funny and... Story 21. How much effort he makes. Story 21. How much effort he makes for contact that doesn't revolve around meeting eye. It's interesting because I assumed that person didn't truly enjoy our conversation, but was only working on a potential lead. It really depresses you as a woman to see that guy continue to enthusiastically socialize with the other guys in attendance after he stopped talking to you after learning of your unavailability. E-texting about my day, providing amusing articles, etc. Of course, this isn't a hard and fast rule. Everyone is different, and some individuals choose not to text in addition to the fact that they can. Story 22. The first time. Story 22. The first time I hung out with my boyfriend, we drank a little too much, and I ended up staying the night. He offered to stay on the couch, but I told him he could sleep in his bed with me. He never tried to make a move, just cuddled all night. I'm not saying that he just wants to feel any text to set up dates, etc. But if he wants to communicate outside hanging out, it's a sign he doesn't just want to feel any text to set up dates, etc. Story 23. If a man has a sizable collection of anime, including figures, manga, and DVD sets, and a katana, there's a handsome fedora with a well-maintained and moisturized neckbeard from Mountain Dew, Doritos, and Grease. He weighs at least 300 pounds and resides in his mother's basement at the age of 37. In all honesty, these guys are far more sincere than the average Chad who is looking to get laid. Story 24. Easy treats you the same way as the intensity wanes and you've stopped ripping each other's clothes. I realize that makes my relationship seem awful, but Long-term relationships go through phases where both partners are exhausted, stressed, etc. If your partner is there for you, then he's a keeper. Short-term, I guess you should wait until you know them before you sleep with them. Nevertheless, I suppose you should just avoid getting emotionally invested in something that isn't clearly defined. Story 25. A better question would be, what is good for you given what you want? If you want something simple and find a guy who really just wants the same thing, that guy may be a bad fit. What you want doesn't matter if you're good. I guess you could look for some general character traits, like being genuinely good, which could be about having shared values, like transparency, consent, and integrity as a man. I would look for those things to find my good, genuine potential partner, and then see if we want the same kind of interaction. Story 26. Good story 26. So, before we got together, my boyfriend and I were friends for a couple of years. During that time, I was dating another guy, but I fell in love with my current boyfriend. X was in a relationship. I didn't cheat on him. Though I constantly complained about the ex to him, he never once disparaged him or disrespected our ex in my relationship. When it became painful for him to be in love with a girl he couldn't have, he simply distanced himself from me and allowed himself to heal. He's a decent man when you treat someone with respect and offer genuine friendship instead of just a seg into dating. You actually have the potential to end up with a life partner in a kick relationship. I regret nothing. You keep friends who respect your boundaries and respect you as a person, not just a body. Story 27. Good story 27. It's really difficult to tell at first, so I usually play it safe and don't really bring it up for a while. If they're the kind of person who really wants nothing else, they'll start bringing it up in every conversation and practically insisting that something happens soon. Story 28. Good story 28. And my boyfriend and I officially started dating that night and ended up sleeping over before I had a single article of clothes left in my closet. He made eye contact with me and said, "If at any point you feel uncomfortable, tell me to stop and tell you what that was." The biggest goddamn turn-on of my life. Story 29. Good story 29. A truly good guy will invest his time in you, even if he's been busy. He will reach out to see how your day went because he cares about you and wants to know about your goals, aspirations, and family. He won't just ask about the things that are most important to you, though, and will want to know your hopes, dreams, and ambitions. For instance, you need to study, and he wants you to go to a party with him. If you tell him that your studies come first, he won't put pressure on you or make you feel guilty for not showing off. He wants to go on dates, post pictures of you, and tell his friends and family about you. He doesn't want to keep you in his apartment or bedroom. Through meaningful conversations and intellectual and emotional connections, he will try to connect with you beyond the physical. A lot can also be in a guy's language. Pay attention to how he speaks. Does he say you're beautiful? Does he put you down? Should you do more squats? Does he only talk about your appearance? There is a difference between a lustful and a loving look. Remember that everyone has flaws and nobody is perfect, so expecting someone to complete a checklist every day is unreasonable. Since we are all human, mistakes will happen, but with a truly good man, it won't be a daily occurrence because he will care and always try to get better. These are just some of the differences I've noticed between the players and the man who treats me like a princess. I hope this helps you, and I wish you luck in meeting your Prince Charming in Story 30. I believe that this has a Story 30 good element that many ladies are unaware of. Seems to understand that when it comes to guys, it's not as simple as trying to get into your pants versus not trying to get into your pants. If a guy is heterosexual and single, and you're at least somewhat attractive to him, chances are he would be very happy if you suddenly wanted to have no strings attached. That doesn't mean he's interested in you or wants to talk to you. Is he actively trying to get into your pants, even if he finds you attractive? Does that make sense? I have a ton of attractive female friends that I enjoy hanging out with and conversing with as fellow humans, but I have never made any conscious efforts to. Story 31. Good story 31. With my current boyfriend, I knew it was when he invited me to meet his best friend. His best friend is old enough to be his father, but they trust each other so much that they help each other with racing, and they're very close. Another sign was when he would tell me what people were saying at work. His co-workers would ask about me or joke about me, which meant they knew about me, and he talked about me, which is a huge sign. Friend circle. For being a player stage in life, does he talk about getting married? And does he associate that person with your personality? How does his story 33 personality behave around his close friends? What do they talk about? Does he keep his word? Has he been in long-term relationships before? Has he had periods of one-night stands and cheating? How does he respond to your needs and wants? If you have a food allergy, does he avoid bringing that food near you? If you're ill, is he by your side? Does he try to make accommodations? Does he try to see you more often? The YouTube algorithm truly believes that you will appreciate this next video, so be sure to check it out if you like it.